about data collection and as it relates to marketing and the ethics of data collection. It seems to be a very important topic in this century we live in now. So let's talk about it. Nigel, welcome. Gail, welcome. Where should we start, guys?
Well,
Gail.
I have this is very surprising to me. So I was researching information for my new client who has a very interesting, fun business. Photo booths have made a comeback. If you can imagine, which kind of surprised me because my first thought was, why would someone buy a photo when they're carrying a camera with them everywhere?
That's a good
Right?
question.
But then I was researching not what this client and his business is doing, but what other people are doing with things like photo booths. And this surprised me. So they're using photo booths to gather marketing information. So let me explain. So it's just like
Okay.
the retro
Sit back.
photo booth actually takes the photos and spits out the two cards with the photos on them, right?
Mhm.
Just like they always did back in the 70s or
I'm
before
thinking like
that.
Polaroid, but I know I remember the photo
Well,
booths,
no,
but I'm
yeah, they're
thinking
like the
almost like,
strip. It
yeah,
was like a strip of 4 photos, except now I think it's
right.
mostly 3 photos and a logo of the business, but anyway, so it spits that out, but then it says, "Would you like to share your photos? Um, would you like to text them to someone?" And if you say yes, now they have your phone number. And if it says,
Ah,
"Would you like to send it to Instagram?" And if you say yes, now it has your Instagram account. If it says, "Would you like to send it to Facebook?" Then they have your Facebook. Would you like to email it? Then they have your
they have your
email,
email.
right? And on some of them, the one that really was over the top that made me go, "What?" That they were putting them in like businesses or maybe like an event that business people go to or like a trade show. And when you first start using it, it asks for your name, address, and phone number. And I went, and people give you that? Well, apparently, if you're excited to take photos with your buddies or your friends or your girl or whatever, right? They're gathering all this information. Now, the good thing is that most locations are a business like a bar or a zoo or an amusement park, and they just want the information to promote their own thing, right?
Mhm.
So, like the bar might send you an email about the band that's playing this weekend or something, right?
Or free
They
drinks on this or
right,
whatever, women's night or whatever
right.
they
So they want to use it to grow their own business. They're not selling your data to third parties, which is, I think we have to draw the line. Maybe you trust business A with all that information because you like to hang out there and you know the owner and they're fine, but you don't really want them selling that to anybody and their brother, right? And so I think that there needs to be some kind of delineation there in the ethical department. There are far too many companies that are getting all your data and selling it, and weird things happening like employers who know what your medical history is and like whatever happened to HIPAA? I don't understand what happened. It seems like way too many people have access to people's medical data
Mhm.
that was supposedly well protected by HIPAA. I know
Mhm.
Nigel's in another country. In Europe, they have much stronger protection for
It,
privacy laws than America does.
yeah,
But
it's still an
HIPAA
opt out
for medical
with the
stuff.
NHS. Is still an opt out in the UK.
You can
You have
opt
to,
out of
yeah,
having
you've got to
your
opt out of it. You're automatically
um,
included in data, but you have to opt out. It's the same with things like donations. You know, if you organ donation, it used to be you had to opt into organ donation,
mhm. That's
and
what the
where I live,
US is. Yeah.
yeah, in the in Wales, it's now opt out. So a lot of
Yeah,
people who were donating before have now opted out because they think if the government can tax you to death, uh, tax you when you're earning money, tax you when you save your money, tax you on everything when you spend your money, tax you when you die, and now they want to take your organs. And so people have objected to this, and they've more people have signed out, so that they're worse off as far as donations are concerned than they were
yeah.
before when it
Oh,
was a
because it's
voluntary thing.
widespread. people know this, right? It's not like I see a lot of times things are going on because people aren't aware they're going on.
Mm.
But where you are, people are aware that they have to opt out. And so a lot more people are opting out, even though they used to voluntarily do it.
Yeah.
See, and I was thinking when you described that, Nigel, I thought, well, I like that idea because, maybe it's just all the medical TV shows I watch where it's like, oh, this person's dying and they have to decide in 2 minutes that they need this particular organ. And it's the only one in the whole world that will save this person. But, oh, the parents want this person to be buried with it. And I'm thinking, the person being buried isn't, benefiting from having that organ. Why don't you give it to the person that's dying? I'm thinking all this
Yeah.
going, wouldn't it be better if it
Okay.
was something that was determined? But I get what you're saying, the
Mm.
way you describe it, Nigel, where it's like they've taken everything else. Why should they be allowed to
The
just
body.
take the organ?
Hey,
Yeah.
so Deborah,
Yeah.
has it ever occurred to you
Mm-hmm.
that if you are officially an organ donor or
Mm-hmm.
you sent your blood off to one of these 23andMe or whatever but places, you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about, the genetic testing places, or anybody in your family did it, even though you didn't do it, you are part of a great big database where rich people could find the organ they want and decide to get it from you, even though maybe it's an organ you can't live without. Maybe I'm a little paranoid or
No,
cynical
I've
or
I've
something,
thought of that.
but
No,
because
I
feel like
think about
that's
that.
dangerous.
Because already I feel like, and I mean, this is a whole nother topic that could take, 90 minutes talking about it, but I already believe there's euthanasia going on to some level as far as diabetics. And I know that sounds like I'm paranoid, but I mean, I'm covering that in some of my own podcasts as far as what they do, even just through financial means.
Mm.
That means that stuff that only costs a couple dollars, and diabetics who can't get medical insurance for other reasons can't pay $4,000 for something that costs $3. So then they end up dying for financial reasons, and they shouldn't, because it's only like a couple bucks that they could probably get busking on the street corner, but they can't afford it. And to me, it's government sanctioned euthanasia. So yes, when you say that, Gail, I actually agree with you that if someone wanted one of my organs, yeah, they would use government sanctioned euthanasia to make sure that I died. So they got a hold of that organ. I don't doubt that for a moment. Crazy sounding or not.
Yeah, going through Parliament at the moment is a bill for legalizing euthanasia in the UK, and there's a huge moral issue over it, and it's the same with the ethics for marketing information, because you should be owning that information, and in France you own your own image, so anybody who takes a photograph of you, even in the street, you can stop them from using it.
I like
Technically
that.
they're not allowed to do it,
Yeah,
but
I like that.
in the UK you don't. So
Yeah,
I
we
can go
don't.
into the street, video people walking past, take photographs of them, everything, and there's
Now,
nothing they can do about it as long as
is
it's
the
in the public domain. They are standing out in the street.
right? Is the
Um,
UK aware of what's going on with in Canada with that kind of stuff?
yeah, that's another thing
They
is
because
Canada's.
they've gone crazy in Canada. They
Yeah,
went from we're going to let people who are dying and don't want to suffer volunteer to if you're depressed, we'll let you do it.
yeah,
To if you just are tired of life, we're going to help you.
yeah,
Like Canada wants to help you commit suicide no matter what your reason might be,
yeah,
and we'll expedite it for you. And it's a scary thing because
yeah,
if we can convince people they don't know whether they're girls or boys, it's pretty easy to convince them that they don't that for the good of the planet they should off themselves, right?
mhm.
That Canada has gone way past and down that slippery slope a long way.
I
I
didn't
think,
realize that. I
Oh
need to
yeah, it's
contact
called
some.
MAID. It's
I
called
need to.
MAID,
yeah,
medically assisted something something. I don't know.
I need to contact my cousins and talk to them.
well, one of the things I think will be a good idea, as far as those advocating this sort of form of euthanasia to save the planet, is they should start with themselves and voluntarily go for it, because I don't think I see this is the arrogance of these so-called elites who create these new laws and these provisions. The arrogance is that they see the world through their own eyes. they do not see it through the eyes of the people they're talking about and influencing with these the legislation they bring in. And it's the same for marketing content, that people are dragging out information about individuals unbeknownst to the individual, that they are then selling, and there seems to be no moral compass for those people, and it's purely arrogance. And
Yep.
at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you want to live, whether you want to live in a trailer in the middle of the desert somewhere. If you're happy in what you're doing and it's not affecting other people, then people shouldn't interfere with it, because that is what freedom is, the freedom to be able to do anything. And I think what we're seeing is this increased reduction of our freedoms purely from the marketing industry and this wonderful word, convenience. It's for your convenience. It's not. Because as far as the government is concerned, all they're interested in is how many taxpayers are out there, how much can we squeeze them for? Okay, so you then become a serf to the government, whereas in the past we used to be a serf to the lord of the land. I mean, not so much in your part of the world, but with us. And this is where America was this bastion of freedom, where your dreams, you could do anything you wanted, and it was your dreams that drove you. It's the great American dream. And I think it's in the last 10 years, or since the year 2000, it seems to have evaporated. And more and more controls are being put on people. Now, I don't turn this into a political discussion. It's about the moral rights and the moral integrity and the ethics of actually gathering information unbeknownst to the person you're gathering the information from. And I think it's the lack of knowledge, it's the ignorance of individuals, especially the new generations who've grown up with the technology and everything else, and they think, oh, isn't this wonderful? And as I think I said in a previous commentary earlier on today, is the fact that people do not understand what it's like to have the privacies and the freedoms we had in the 60s, say. And suddenly it's all changed. And all of us can see it because we've got feet in both camps, as it were. We had the privacy, we had the freedoms of our youth, but young people today will never see those freedoms because of the legislation and laws that have come in.
The problem
And
is
what was it?
they don't value it, though. And the problem is that if they go along with anything, right, then it makes it harder for the people who still want privacy and freedom to maintain their privacy and freedom, because the young people don't care. I can't have a conversation with them when I ask them, why do you want to give away your privacy by sticking spy devices all over your house? And they're like, but it'll keep the bad guys out. Well, it also lets some guy who, may be a pervert watch what you're doing in your own house. I don't understand this. I don't know if we were born wanting privacy. I mean, I was in a big family, so I didn't have privacy. I had 3 roommates, basically, most of my growing up, which was wall to wall beds, right? But I don't know. I don't understand. And the thing about the marketing is, it's like when cookies first came out. I thought they were appalling. An appalling idea that a cookie could follow you place to place. And now we're at the point where the monopoly, that 900-pound gorilla, they get all the data, but they are not going to share it with your SEO, your website, or anyone else that wants it unless they pay it. They probably sell it to you, but they won't let you have it anymore, even though it's your website's data, right?
I thought you were talking about cookies, as in
Cookies.
No.
I thought, why does Gail not like little cookies?
Deborah, you're a web designer, really? Cookies.
Well, you were talking about beds and growing up, and I thought she likes cakes, but not cookies. But I was like
those kind of cookies. But when the new cookies first came out, where sites were sharing the data, right? So you could look at analytics, and analytics would say that where you came from, where you went to, right? But then some aggregators could follow you everywhere you went online,
Yep.
right? It's just like something else that was curious. When remarketing first came out,
Hmm.
a lot of people didn't set it up very well.
Hmm.
And it gets downright creepy if every website you click on shows you the same ad everywhere you go, right? It's like stalking, right? I
Yeah.
think they got over that. They don't do that as much either. Remarketing got more expensive, so they cut back on how many times they show you the same thing. Or maybe
Well,
because I don't go to mainstream sites very much and they mostly do that on corporate sites, the big mainstream media sites.
I just open new tabs or use
But
incognito,
well,
but that's
yeah.
to get
Yeah,
by.
but it was weird though. And I'm sure that a lot of people find it creepy. Just like there's a million discussions of people saying they were talking to someone and then next thing they know, they're seeing ads for something that was mentioned in that conversation that only two people were party to, and the cell phone lay in there, right? So the cell
Or
phone
an Alexa
harvested
bot.
Yeah.
that. Well, now that the stuff
Siri and
people put in
Alexa.
their houses,
Hmm.
but I don't. I wonder if people realize like your TV can tell where you're at in the room and whether you're paying attention.
Hmm.
The scariest thing to me is smartphones, and that's one of the reasons I don't have one.
Hmm.
I wonder if people realize the smartphone is reading your expressions,
Hmm.
right? And then let's talk about scanners, eye scanners. My
Yeah.
first thought is, how do you know that doesn't damage your eyesight? Nobody will know
But
that until they've been around long enough for a whole bunch of people to be blind when they're fairly young because they've been opening their smartphone with their face.
the
Well,
camera has to actually have access to your face. For instance, if you have that camera covered, like I keep my cameras covered
Well,
all the
yeah, if it's
time.
covered, obviously, but the average person doesn't cover their camera. The average person
Hmm.
has a phone that's got cameras on both sides, right? It could be taking your picture anytime. It can take pictures of wherever you are anytime. You will not necessarily know that it's taking pictures.
But for
That's
some
enough.
people, health wise, they need that. Like for instance, I backup things and program things so that God forbid I end up on the floor and I need help. It's I've fallen
Hmm.
and I can't get up kind of a thing. I have actual scripts where I can trigger it with my voice so it'll
Hmm.
go get a hold of Michael. So I want some of that available so that I
Yeah,
can get help. Yeah.
this is the whole thing about technology. In technology is a brilliant thing, and it helps so many people and enables people to live a normal life. The problem we've got is that for you, some form of a notification to the phone picks it up, it's listening to you, and it phones your husband to come and rescue
Hmm.
you, whatever it is.
Hmm.
But then why is that being used for healthy individuals who don't need that sort of support? Why is it because they can't be asked to get out of a sofa to go and switch a
Exactly.
switch on to put the heating on? They're sitting there increasing and
Yeah,
decreasing the
see,
heating.
that's another thing I don't get. Unless, I always think of that song. Do you remember the song In the Year 2525?
Yeah,
Except they had the years wrong. But same thing, right?
yeah.
That if you make yourself into a vegetable, right? And this is really obvious to me. I had a grandmother who had a health condition and she ended up bedridden and she could have gotten stronger and gotten up, but she chose not to
Hmm.
and ended up being an invalid for 12 or 14 years. And my grandfather took care of her. And when I went to see her years before she died, she was so weak she could not lift a cup and drink by herself. Someone had to come and give her a drink. Someone had to come and do every single thing for her because
Hmm.
she chose not to try to get better, right? And there's lots of people
Yeah,
that do that. They like recovery from some like terrible accidents is very painful, and some people won't go through the pain to get to the other side, right?
yeah,
And so we have all these people. Like I don't get it. If you cannot close or open the blinds, eventually what you're going to be a blob that
yeah,
can't move. You're going to be like Jabba the Hutt if you do not move enough to go close the drape. Like if you want the drapes open or closed, get up and open and close them. I mean, some things I like TV changers. I'm okay with that, right? Especially the ones that are they're light. They're light, so they're not like bad for your health. Um, a TV changer is a good thing. It saved a lot of kids being screamed at and spouses come change the TV channel for me, right? A lot less of that. But everything else, I don't get it. You should be able to go turn stuff on. You don't It makes no sense to pick up your radiating device that's zapping you to do something you could have pushed a button and done, right?
I think that's where there needs to be education, though, so that people understand, for instance, if you're going to live like this is the effect it's going to have in 40 years. You're going to be in pain, you're going to be uncomfortable, and so forth. If that's, the cause and the effect. And I think the education needs to be out there so that people understand that they're making this decision for themselves. They're deciding by basically living a lazy, not to give it a label, but that's easier than a big long paragraph. By living a lazy life, they're going to be very uncomfortable later in life.
Right, but what about all the people that sit around gaming all the time? Right, I'm sure the games are getting their information too, but don't they get fat? I mean, it seems like for me, I can eat like a horse as long as I am very active. It doesn't matter. But if there's some reason where I can't be very active, then no matter how little I eat, I gain weight. And so it seems to me, of course, some people, they save all this energy with their labor saving devices and then pay to go to a gym to work it off. Right. And so there's that. People don't get it, right? Like, you have to be active. The people that are healthy and still moving and still mentally sharp are the people that use their brains and use their bodies, use it or lose it.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think it's their values. If their values are not aligned with being healthy mentally and physically, it's
Well, yeah, but
even
when
if
you're
they took the
young, you don't
games.
think of that probably. When you're young, you just think about what you want to do, right? So when I'm older, like I once had somebody say, if you got rid of those horses, think of all the money you'd have. I said, yeah, but why would I get out of bed in the morning?
Yeah.
Right?
But those are
If
your
you have
values.
if you have animals, you have to take care of them. So
Mhm.
even if you feel lazy today, you still have to go feed and water them, right? And so, in the old days, people had to milk the cows, gather the eggs, make the food, right? Do the
Yep.
garden, do the farming, whatever, go to work.
Cut logs.
People had to do stuff. Now we're going to have a lot of people. There's young people in their 20s who've never had a job, never had a driver's license, right? And I think the reason they're not fat, most of them, is because they get, instead of using food for energy, they're using the serotonin or whatever they get from the game, right? They're using the
Ooh.
gratification built into the gamification of stuff to feel satisfied. Otherwise, they'd be eating all the time.
You need to
Okay.
tune in on the health tips that Nigel's been educating
I was
us
just going to
on
say.
Saturdays. Yes.
I was just going to say, when you started talking about this now, Gail, it's something that my wife and I have discussed, and I've talked about it here on the internet with Deborah on a Saturday night, and it's quite interesting because have you ever seen the film Wall-E?
I don't think I have.
Look it up. It's a little cartoon film. It's quite amusing, and it's quite an interesting little science fiction film cartoon. It's a full feature film, and basically what happens is the world's destroyed by humans and is full of rubbish and everything else. And Wall-E is a little robot that searches for green life, to show that the planet is recovering. In the meantime, all humans have been put up on spaceships, and they're hovering around the planet, where everybody has everything done for them by robots and everything else. And Wall-E finds a little green shoot, signals it to the spaceship, and now these people on the spaceships have to come down and start making the world again. But the amusing thing is when you look on the spaceships, they're all sitting in these floating chairs. They do everything by pushing buttons. Food is provided for them. Robots do all the physical work for them. So they're just sitting there, and they're just big, large lumps of lard. And I just think, yeah. And when you look, you know, I'm sorry, I don't want to be sexist in these remarks, but when I was a young lad and I was growing up, and you know, I found my hormones, and suddenly women became more attractive than climbing mountains and trees and doing boys things. All the girls I used to look at, I mean, even in the, I'm sorry, and I don't want to offend anyone in this one, but it's just a fact of life. You look at young girls today, and they're all so grossly overweight, and it's because of the food that they're eating. It's high energy, high calorific rubbish that they don't have to work for because they just go to a shop and purchase it. They consume, the way they consume isn't like when we were young. You had a bit of breakfast, you had a bit of main lunch, and then you had some tea, and then you went to bed. You didn't nibble all the way through the day. You didn't drink sugary drinks all through the day. You just ate what was put in front of you. I mean, I was lucky. I had parents who said, if you don't eat it, you go to bed with an empty stomach. Mm-hmm. So you learn to appreciate all the different flavors and textures and mouthfeel and all the other things. And okay, there were a few things I didn't like when I was young. I do like them now, oddly enough, because my tastes have changed.
But you're thankful for the food.
Sorry?
You're thankful for the food, whatever you got. Yeah, it was like, you know, thankful that you got food.
But the thing is, the food I used to get was grown in our garden. The meat I used to get was at my cousin's slaughterhouse, or abattoir, if you want to be posh, in the next village. The fish that I caught, or my father caught, or we caught as a family, and it was all straight from wherever it came. And the whole thing is, today, most people don't even know where milk comes from. And I just find it absolutely appalling.
Wow.
Okay, when you get away from the cities, you do find out. But there's plenty of videos online of people that show young people who haven't got a clue, because they spend all their time pressing buttons on a smartphone, playing some game, or sending some photograph to their OnlyFans or whatever it is to make some more money.
There was a post on Facebook where they were talking about milking cows. Yeah. And one of the comments was actually, why don't you people leave the poor cows alone? You can buy milk in any store. and so clearly this person has no clue where the milk in the store comes from.
Yeah.
Right. And there are so many vegans and vegetarians now, even in homesteading groups. It's really funny. So in a homesteading group, the typical homesteader raises poultry and animals for food. That's homesteading. That's kind of part of it. But there are vegetarian and vegan homesteaders. And, and sometimes you want to say to them, please go start a vegan homesteading group and leave us alone.
Yeah.
Right? Because every time someone says something about what's the kindest way to dispatch whatever, right? All the vegans are up in arms. Oh, you evil people, you're killing the poor animals, right? And so you're never going to bridge that. It's just like the abortion argument. There are some arguments you cannot bridge because there is no common ground, right? And there's no common ground in that. But the regular homesteaders who do things the way that their ancestors did it just shake their heads at these people. They're like, look, I have goats for milk and cheese and butter and meat, and that's how it is. That's why I have goats or rabbits. That some people eat rabbit. I don't, but rabbits or pigs or whatever, they're
wow. We've definitely got
so much controversy, right?
No. You're safe with me, Gail. Okay, because I have actually caught, skinned, cooked and eaten rabbit. I've caught, shot, defeathered, cleaned, cooked and eaten pigeon. I've done it with chickens. You name it. I grew up on. I'm from farming stock. I grew up
Right.
with all this thing, and I worked in my cousin's abattoir for about 3 summers. Um, from school, and I've seen the whole process. And the thing is, as long as you have respect for the animal, and you eat everything that's available on it, okay, then I see no issue with what we do, because at the end of the day, all these vegans who go on about you shouldn't be cruel to the animals, I can't eat grass and survive.
Right.
Cows eat grass, they turn into meat. I can eat that. Happy days. Okay, but I respect the cow for giving up its life so I can have a tidy meal. And I think one of the biggest crimes that ever was committed by governments across the globe, or Western governments, I should say, was that they went to this process of, fat's dangerous. If you eat fat, you get fat, which is absolute bunkum. If you eat carbohydrates, you get fat.
Yeah.
Um, and so everybody went for lean meat. So they were trying to breed cows that only had lean meat and very little fat in them. It's disgusting. It's got no flavor, because all the flavor is wrapped up in the fat, in the lard, and all that juicy fat that gets in there. That's where the flavor
I
is.
think that was the margarine lobby that did that here. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
But
yeah,
problem, people,
hey, guys, we probably should make this another episode so we can get
yeah,
a different title for this
yeah,
one. But Gail, you
oh,
should join us on Saturday, definitely.
yeah.
And I can't remember what
I've
our
considered it, but
topic.
I just am usually busy and don't think of it until it's way past on
Right.
Saturdays.
It's on the Diabetic Reel. And for anyone watching this you can join us. Diabeticreel.net is free. So join diabeticreel.net and then check out the calendar there. And it's actually in socialcafe.net too. So both calendars have it. Check out Saturday and it's not there at this moment, but it will be there. So by the time you're watching this, you can click on the link and find the link for the X Space that's happening that's in 2 days. So, and if you're watching this after the event, you'll be able to click on that link and watch the actual recording, or I should say, listen to the recording of the event. But on the calendar, you can click on any one of those links and listen as Nigel shares wonderful information. I've learned so much from you, Nigel, on all of this. So
He probably knows more
awesome.
than the average person
Oh,
because the
definitely.
people don't get it, right? The
Yeah.
people that are anti animals don't understand we need the fertility the animals give us. And there's a lot of land that's not suitable for farming.
Yeah,
And that's why we raise animals on it.
yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
But
And or like the water thing, cattle drink too much water. Well, yeah, but cattle drink out of ponds that capture rainwater in places where it rains like crazy all the time.
yeah,
Like here, where
yeah,
I have standing water everywhere because it rains a lot here. So they're
yeah,
not drinking the from the aquifer that supplies the humans in the city. They're
mm,
drinking rainwater runoff,
yeah.
right, which they
yeah.
then put back in the ground later.
Like,
And
And
so
the other thing about cows drinking out that sort of runoff is that it's water that we can't drink, because they have
right.
immunities to all the
filters it
bugs
out.
that are in that water, whereas
Yeah.
we don't have that immunities, especially if we live this life where we're eating sterilized food from sterilized things. Well, actually, it's not even food. And now they want us to eat bugs. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Do you
yeah,
guys have
we
any
don't do there, but
closing remarks
those
on
things,
the
people need to be aware. They need to be
Yeah,
aware of their food. They need to be aware of who's gathering what information.
yeah,
They need to be aware of what they're volunteering online, which lives forever.
yeah.
They need to be aware that even though you delete it to where you can't see it anymore, that doesn't mean it's really deleted and
good
it's
Uh-huh.
point?
still
Yeah.
out there and lots of people have access to it. People you don't want to have access to it.
Yeah,
So basically,
Uh,
awareness. People need to wake up and be more aware of privacy, marketing,
yeah,
con the most of the marketing now on Facebook and YouTube is baloney. The, it is so ridiculous that and I know people are falling for it and buying this garbage. It's ridiculous. If it sounds too good to be true, it's wrong. It's not true.
Yeah.
And so,
Yep. Yep.
you know, people need to be more aware. That's the number one thing. No matter what the topic is, pay attention.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nigel, any
I
final
I,
thoughts
I will
on
concur
the?
with everything that Gail has said. It's just what'll happen is people it'll disappear. We won't have any privacy, and it's only when that happens that people who've ignored this going on will suddenly realize how important privacy is. But it'll be a huge battle to win that back again.
And I think only some of them will. I think the majority will not notice because they are not paying attention.
Yeah.
So true. So true.
I think they'll just go on the way they are.
Thank you, Gail.
And with that, thank you all for tuning in and watching Next Level Success Roundtable. We hope to see you same time, same place next week. Thank you so much, Nigel and Gail. Loved everything that you shared here. And I need to go watch this again because a lot of good information here. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.